Hello, I am the Positive Film Buff. Judging from my name, I think it helps you learn that I am a huge lover of all movies, from epic classics to modern day blockbusters, all of them released in dozens of decades and shown through a large variety of different genres like action, comedy, drama, sci-fi, fantasy, superhero, etc. But if there's one thing I love more equally than film, it's the company known as Disney. Since I was a child, I have been a Disney fanboy all of my life. And all of its shows and other projects, from animated classics, Pixar features, live action films, many projects, they have all given me so much joy. And I owe it all to the mouse that started it all. I still love that little fella so much. But you might be wondering, how did my everlasting love for films and Disney begin? It began with a sunset and the first notes of a legendary African song. That was the beginning of The Lion King. Yes, Disney's 1994 animated feature, The Lion King, was the first movie I ever saw, and man, was it a wonder for my eyes. It had a very exciting story, filled with all sorts of memorable characters, and lots of likable songs and music. I saw a lot of other Disney animated features immediately after that, but The Lion King was one of those Disney films I was watching the most. And not only that, but I also watched its 1998 sequel, its 1995 TV show starring two of the film's most memorable characters, and even played Disney's animated storybook on the film on the computer, and kept on listening to the film's read-along tape cassette. Yep, I was a mega fan of The Lion King, and as I grew older, I slowly began to realize that I wasn't the only fan of this movie out there. Of course, every Disney movie is popular around the world, but The Lion King's popularity was surprisingly bigger, being constantly loved by many people the world over, considered by many to be one of the greatest films of all time, and even spawned a highly popular and groundbreaking stage musical in the process. Yeah, this Disney movie is that great, and in my current years as a film buff, I keep on seeing nothing but the greatness of it. Starting with the story. Africa, ruled by a lion king and queen, filled with many marvelous animals on this planet. Okay, am I starting to sound like a National Geographic narrator? Sorry. Anyway, the son of the king and queen, called Simba, is born and destined to become the new king of the Pride Lands when he grows up. But a dark shadow lies in the Pride Lands in the form of his uncle, named Scar. Scar, who wants to take over the throne himself, will do anything to kill his own nephew. After several failed attempts, Scar eventually comes up with a perfect plan to destroy both Simba and his father Mufasa by sending his minions, the hyenas, to start a wildebeest stampede that would surely kill them both. In the process, the father is killed and Simba is led to believe that he is responsible for the death. So he runs away, never to return, thus allowing Scar to become the king of the Pride Lands. Simba spends the rest of his life in exile, living in the jungle with his two new friends, Timon and Pumbaa, a meerkat and a warthog. Until years later, when he grows up, an old childhood friend of his comes along and attempts to persuade him to return home, but to no avail, as he still believes he killed his father. Simba then encounters the ghost of Mufasa, and this encounter finally persuades him to return home. So it's the ultimate battle as Simba and his group of friends return home to fight Scar, save the kingdom, and fulfill his destiny. As a youngster, I thought this movie had one of the most exciting stories out of all the Disney animated films. I mean, a story about a potential Lion King trying to save the kingdom from a truly evil threat? That sounds like this story was meant to be exciting and awesome. It also had dozens of highly likable characters. Simba was a very great main character to root for, and characters like Mufasa and Nala brought a lot of heart and soul to the movie, while the villain, Scar, is a pretty amazing bad guy to witness, delivering all the great things you'd like to see in a villain like this. In fact, he's one of the deadliest and most cunning of all Disney villains, managing to complete a good half of his goal, and also proving that not even a highly groundbreaking and positive Disney moral and message is enough to stop him. As a child, though, the most likable characters were the ones that made me laugh the most, like Timon and Pumbaa, the famous meerkat and warthog duo, Zazu, the king's major domo, Rafiki, the wise and slightly wacky mandrill, and 3 wacky hyenas named Shenzi, Banzai, and Ed. And it also had some of the best songs I've heard in a Disney animated feature, composed by legendary singer and one of my favorite music performers, Elton John, with lyrics by Tim Rice. I mean, every Disney animated movie has easily recognizable songs, and this one is no different. As an adult, though, especially having seen the impact this movie had made on cinema, and having noticed all of the other themes and messages the more times I watched it as I grew from child to teenager to adult, I've got an interesting thing to say. This was it. The best story. The absolute best Disney story. Disney has a lot of amazing stories, but this is truly the best one. It was really like a combination of the feels and emotions of an epic film like The 10 Commandments and Schindler's List, combined with the thrills and the scope of a modern blockbuster, combined with the elements of a Disney animated feature. That's a unique set of combinations, but that's what I saw in this movie. The characters not only remained memorable and fantastic as they were when I watched this as a child, but I was really in awe at how much brilliance the cast showed with their voice performances. Every single one of them, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Matthew Broderick, James Earl Jones, Jeremy Irons, Moira Kelly, Nathan Lane, Ernie Sabella, Robert Guillaume, Rowan Atkinson, Marge Sinclair, Whoopi Goldberg, Cheech Marin, and Jim Cummings gave some of the best performances in an animated feature ever. Sometimes I remember the actors most for this movie, and it's also fun for me to see all these actors in different movies and you always recall their roles in this one. While I still love hearing the songs to this day, I also love to hear its fantastic score, composed by the wonderfully talented Hans Zimmer. A seamless combination of orchestral music mixed with African music, Zimmer's score proved to be one of the biggest factors in giving this movie the epic tone it has. When you hear this marvelous score, is it any wonder it managed to gain the Oscar for Best Original Score that year? And last but not least, the animation is breathtakingly stellar, bringing out some of the best traditional animation ever seen in not just a Disney feature, but any traditionally animated feature. I dare you, try to watch this movie and not be blown away by some of the most beautiful and glorious animation you've ever seen. It's yet another factor that adds to the film's big scope and epic tone. I really love The Lion King. It continues to be my all-time favorite Disney animated movie, as well as one of my favorite films of all time. It's got such a marvelous story, got such marvelous animation, marvelous characters, marvelous songs, a marvelous music score. It is marvelous. It's a marvelous animated film and truly Disney's best. But I've got one last thing to say about it. A part of me always wanted to experience the spectacle and thrill of when The Lion King was playing on the big screen. And thanks to its 2019 remake, I got that experience. I believe that sentence alone is enough to show that The Lion King is the greatest Disney story ever told.